Hey Pokemon fans, Tamashii here. Sorry about the gap in my uploads. I went to PAX and then I had my wisdom teeth out, which was super fun. Well, PAX, not having my wisdom teeth out. Since I've been gone a few weeks, I figured I needed a big video to come back with. And over the past year or so, my most requested video ever has been to make a top 10 shiny Pokemon countdown, where I go through my favorite shiny Pokemon and explain why I like them. I was hesitant to do it for a while because I wasn't sure I could explain why I like the way something is colored in an interesting way. But the overwhelming amount of requests I've gotten for this video must mean that there's a way to do it. So after a few weeks of rest, I think I'm up for the challenge. So let's forge ahead anyway and give it a try.
First though, I feel like I should give a little background info on shininess and the way a shiny palette was determined in past generations. In Generation 3, shininess was based off of whatever palette was stored directly after the Pokemon's normal palette in the game's code. For some Pokemon, this is probably a palette designed specifically for that shiny, like Charizard. But for others, I'm pretty sure they just used an existing palette, already designed for something else, and just went with the next closest palette in memory that didn't mess with the shading on the sprite. This is my reasoning for why some shiny Pokemon are virtually indistinguishable from their non-shiny counterparts, and why most pink Pokemon are blue and shiny, why lots of Pokemon are tinted very similar shades of green, pink, and yellow, and the overall lack of variety when it comes to the majority of showns out there. Now that the series has moved away from sprite artwork though, I feel like they were a lot more creative when choosing the shiny forms of the newer Pokemon. Which leads me to my number 10 pick, Greninja. Here's the shiny that actually makes sense and works with the Pokemon's overall design. Its Pokedex entry in Y reads, "It appears and vanishes with a ninja's grace." And what better way to help it vanish than to allow it to blend into the shadows of the black and gray color palette. Shiny Greninja's tongue also turns a blood red, a color that our eyes have trouble with in the dark. Some ninjas wore red specifically for this reason, so when they did pop out from the shadows, the red would alarm and startle their enemies because it would make them think of blood. Though the dark edgy look of this shiny is a turn off for some, to me it's a nice alternate to the already sleek design of Greninja. Number 9. Espeon. This is just one I personally like a lot. Not only do I like Espeon as a Pokemon, I love the design of it. It's inspired by the two-tailed cat from Japanese mythology, and I've always just enjoyed how it's been animated in the 3D games to have very realistic cat-like movements. Normally Espeon is purple, which is one of my favorite colors, but shiny Espeon is lime green, which is like my all-time favorite color. Fun fact, there's a shiny Espeon in the fire red leaf green battle tower that belongs to a trainer. This is one of the few instances in the entire series where you can encounter a completely uncatchable shiny, and a shiny belonging to an NPC. Number 8. Minun. I often get asked what my very first shiny was, and aside from the red Gyarados and gold and silver, this is mine. I encountered this little guy in Route 10 and Emerald version, and caught him and named him Spark. Unfortunately, the save file corrupted and I lost him, but I'll always remember that excited feeling. I even still have a picture of him. Number 7. Venusaur. There's some debate in the Pokemon community over whether it's less rewarding to actively hunt for shinies, and whether or not things like the Masuda method to value shinies are making them easier to get. Having both encountered shinies by chance and having worked for them by breeding, I can say that they're both very rewarding in very different ways. On one hand, a chance encounter is something really special because the odds of it occurring are so very slim. However, things have their greatest meaning when we feel like we've earned them, even if the odds of it occurring are higher. This Venusaur took me 2 weeks, that's nearly 2,000 eggs to hatch, and with careful breeding, he ended up with his hidden ability, a timid nature, and even good IVs in a lot of the places that really count for a Pokemon of his species. To me, there's no greater trophy Pokemon than a legitimately obtained shiny that can also kick some ass, which a lot of random encounter shinies can't do. For that reason, my shiny Venusaur Phylon will always have a special place in my heart, and roster. I always enjoy seeing my opponents gasp with envy every time I send it out, and knowing I earned it makes me grin every time. Number 6. Purrloin. For all the pet-like Pokemon out there, it's taken Game Freak ages to design a black cat Pokemon. Purrloin came close, but not really close enough to satisfy me when I first saw it. I've always wanted a cat-type Pokemon to resemble my favorite kind of real-life cat, the tortoiseshell, which tends to be black with brown mottling on its coat. But the first dark-type kitty has a little secret, and that's its shiny form. It's an honest-to-God black cat Pokemon. I've wanted this since I was in 2nd grade, and it finally exists. Unfortunately, it changes color when it evolves, but I can't wait to add one to my shiny kitty little cup team. Number 5. Slugma. This shiny is kind of mean to poor Slugma, and it tickles me. Slugma's Pokedex entry in Ruby reads, "If this Pokemon is chilled, the magma cools and hardens. Its body turns brittle and chunks fall off, reducing its size." In Leaf Green it reads, It never sleeps. It has to keep moving because if it stopped, its magma body would cool and harden. In Sapphire it reads, Slugma does not have any blood in its body. Instead, intensely hot magma circulates through this Pokemon's body, carrying essential nutrients and oxygen to its organs. And finally, its Emerald Dex entry reads, if its body cools, its skin hardens and immobilizes it. So essentially, lots of bad stuff happens to Slugma if it cools down too much and hardens, while its shiny sprite predicts just that. Shiny Slugma are dark gray, and resemble obsidian, a rock that forms from cooled lava. Poor Slugma! Luckily for it, when it evolves, shiny Magcargo is a hot pink color with a red-hot shell, so it doesn't have to stay frail, with its organs shutting down in an immobile state for long. Number 4. Mega Garchomp. Garchomp is one of those Pokemon that got a really lame shiny. It's barely distinguishable from its normal form. Gibble's alright, but once it evolves it loses all of its uniqueness. But luckily in X and Y, shiny Mega Garchomp got a cool purple coating. And with that face it reminds me a lot of Unit 001 from Evangelion. Number 3. Nidoking and Nidoqueen lines. Visibility for trans people in video games has always been kind of sucky, as unfortunately is the case with most media. But recently in X and Y, there's a beauty trainer in the Battle Maison who states that she used to be a black belt. A male-only trainer class, as the female equivalents are called Crush Girls. This little reference made quite a few people happy, and while it's not much at all, it's cool to see trans people at least acknowledged in Pokemon. Interestingly, and possibly somewhat related, the shiny sprites of the Nidoking and Nidoqueen lines of Pokemon are color swapped to the other gender. So while these Pokemon might not look like their biological gender dictates they should, they're still just as capable as every other member of their species. Not only that, and since they're so rare, it makes them special and more valuable to trainers. That's just my interpretation of the color swap, of course, but I think it's really neat that it worked out this way, especially with their significance of being the very first gendered Pokemon ever. Number 2. Spinda. Poor Spinda has always been kind of meh. It's got the meh-ist stats possible, with every stat having a base of 50, and a meh move pool to go with it. But the one thing that really stands out about Spinda is its dot pattern. Since the spots on a Spinda are determined by its personality value, the odds of two Spindas having the same dot pattern are 1 in 4,294,697,295. This means if you happen to get a shiny Spinda, it will most likely always be truly unique from every other shiny Spinda out there in appearance. No two Spinda, or shiny Spinda, will likely ever be identical, which I think is pretty cool, and it makes the shiny form extra special. Even though Spinda might not stand out in the crowd much when it comes to battling, they make for some cute collectible shiny friends. And the number 1 shiny Pokemon is Vespiquen. This is probably the rarest shiny in existence, aside from Pokemon that are programmed to never appear shiny like some legendaries. Combi has a special trait of being a Pokemon that only evolves into Vespiquen if female, and it only has a 12.5 chance of ever being female in the first place. In X and Y, the odds of finding a shiny Pokemon at all are 1 in 4,096. Now, I'm not a math whiz, so I asked my followers on Twitter to help me out with this one. And they worked out that this meant that the odds of finding a shiny female Combi were 1 in 32,768, or 0.0003%. That's insanely rare. Not to mention if you wanted to end up with a specific nature, IV set, or ability, then be even more variables to throw in. So if you manage to get a legitimate shiny Vespiquen, that's some determination you have there, or just really insanely good luck. And there you have it, my top 10 shiny Pokemon. You know what else is shiny? Cha-ching! If you want to earn some extra cash, Amazon or iTunes gift cards just by filling out surveys, check out Opinion Outpost. The way it works is that companies do lots of market research, and to encourage people to participate, they offer awards through sites like this. It's free to sign up, so make sure to check out the link in the video description for more information. Let me know what shiny Pokemon you like in the comments below, and if you're interested in checking out more videos, you can click here for 3 ways to catch a shiny Pokemon in X and Y, or click here for my top 10 Pokemon villains. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to click here to subscribe for more Pokemon videos. See ya!